Understanding glazing unlocks the full potential of oil painting. There are colors that you can't make without glazing. If you want colors that gleam and dance in your eyes, then you have to know how to glaze. There are two techniques to lighten a paint's color. Either you add white to it, or you glaze it over a lighter color. Here I have titanium white and some bright colors. First, I'm mixing the color with white, creating a little gradient. And under that, I'm taking the same bright paint and glazing it with some oil. When we pull out the color picker, you can see that the glazed colors are significantly more vibrant than the colors that we added white paint to. These vibrant colors cannot be mixed. They can only be achieved through glazing. If you want to know how to use this technique to achieve unreal colors, then keep on watching, and maybe subscribe if you could. All great paintings start out with a horrible sketch, and then through much head-scratching, muffled screaming, and exhaled expletives, a sketch begins to get a little better. Until maybe you're happy with what you see. I like to use colored pencils, specifically Prismacolor Colorase, in a mid-tone color. I find that it's much better than graphite. Even when you smudge it or erase it, a graphite pencil will leave a bit of a dark cast on the canvas, and while this one only leaves a cute pinkish one. Altogether, it disappears once I tone the canvas anyway. Whenever I start a drawing, I think of the loose shapes first. I refine it, drawing the complicated contours of the form over the web of those loose shapes. But it's always a push and pull, and I keep my trusty emotional support eraser nearby and ready to obliterate my mistakes. After the drawing's finished, I move on to strengthening my sketch with an ink wash, applied with the teeny tiniest little brush you ever dang seen. Even this ink can be removed from the canvas if you catch it fast enough and blot a wet towel over it before it dries. Once it dries, the sketch will show through under my toned canvas and be a guide for my first pass of paint. Even when strengthening the sketch, I'm not just tracing my drawing. I'm always thinking about how I can make it better. And not just more accurate, but more full of feeling. Even the subtlest of curves can change the way a painting makes someone feel. I feel like I was scared this whole time I was sketching this out. Like, what if I mess it up? And blah, 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 blah. But I got over it. Perfection is something to strive for, and it's not something you can just do out of the gate. But it can be built up to, maybe. After the sketch is finished, I start toning my canvas. I know this looks a little odd. Most people brush a gray or brown tone across their canvas and call it a day, but I love to make things hard for myself. The technique I'm using here I call spot toning. Since I've already planned out the image, I know the general colors of each part of the picture. I'm scrubbing in green and purples and pinks and blues at approximately where they'll be. I'm using Gamsol, and I'm pushing the paint around on a washy base. Over this, I'm going to paint my first pass. I like working from a bright canvas because I think it helps a lot with the vibrancy of the final image. A lot of people think that to glaze, you have to start with a grisaille or a grayscale painting, but I don't agree with this. While grisaille is a great technique, there's a faster and more fun way to achieve a similar result. When you grisaille, you're also constantly working against the dull gray of the canvas, and you need a lot of layers to pick up that vibrancy. Even when you think it's good enough, the painting can still feel tinged with gray. It's more effective to do your first pass 2 value stages up and a bit desaturated in color. This is really simple to do if you're working from an image. You can just turn up the brightness on it and maybe the saturation down a bit and start working. If you're not working from a reference, think about it as making your lights extra bright and your darks only a darkish mid-tone, and then desaturating all of it. I tend to mix the lighter colors with white, as I'd normally do, and then the mid-tones and darker colors, I'll add raw sienna or Van Dyke brown, or any neutral earth tone. You don't need to add neutral tones to the lighter colors because the white will take down the vibrancy of those colors enough. On this first pass, I'm barely using any medium in the paint. It's all good old thick, buttery oil paint. This way, I can really get the soft and subtle transitions that oil paint is known for. The first layers also allow me to build up the surface in an interesting way. Although the background will be mostly black, I'm starting here with a desaturated version of the bright color it's going to become. I love paintings with dark, moody backgrounds, but I want this to feel more than just a deep, flat black. I want there to be colors showing through and brushy textures for the eye to fall on. I always wait for the background to be touch dry before I start painting the foreground. On the figure's face here, you'll notice how I'm working everything out in halftone, aka I'm not using white straight out of the tube, and I'm not using black straight out of the tube either. If I did that in this early stage, it would look too contrasty. I wouldn't be able to gradually model the form out. So instead, I mix large piles of paint and I block in these areas. As I start to refine the face, I'll start using darker colors in the shadows and some white out of the tube for the highest highlights, like on the cheekbones and around the eyes. When I'm painting, I almost exclusively use a 2-size brush, even to fill larger areas. With a smaller brush, you're gonna be more precise with your placement, and it feels like using a sharpened pencil. I try to start out blending as little as possible. After putting down the paint, I can decide whether an edge needs to be hard or soft. I think it's important to blend as little as possible. A good exercise is to make a few paintings without blending at all, and just lay each tone next to tone, and you'll learn a lot about accurate placement and color mixing that way. This painting is an interpretive master study of a Velázquez painting called Apollo at the Forge of Vulcan. This figure is on the far left of the painting. He's a blacksmith at Vulcan's forge who's been working tirelessly on a new suit of armor for Ares. This scene catches the surprise on his face when Apollo tells Vulcan that his wife, Aphrodite, has been cheating on him with Ares, which I think is very understandable. Vulcan is at his forge all the time, and Aphrodite was forced into the marriage by Zeus. She never chose this life. But anyway, after learning the news, Vulcan melts down the armor and sets his forge ablaze to create an invisible, unbreakable net of metal chains. He traps Aphrodite and Ares in their lover's bed, then publicly humiliates them by inviting all the Olympian gods to witness the scene, seeking revenge for his dishonor. A classic tale of Greek god vengeance for you, caught with their pants down. Don't mess with Vulcan. After the figure is finished, I'm going in with a thinned down black paint to model the background. I want there to be tonal variation, and I want the figure to stick out from the background intensely. This step felt very rewarding, and it really separated the background from the figure. Adding the black strokes in an opposite direction to the ones under it also adds more depth and complexity. This first pass feels pretty vibrant, but it's really not. There's a lot of earth tones mixed into the darks here, and the highlights feel a bit chalky, but that's how it's supposed to look. By overshooting the lights and desaturating the colors, I have the perfect base to glaze into. Mixing colors for glazing is different from mixing colors for blocking in. Here, I'm doing a dark and a bright version of each of my colors. Gamblin's chromatic black is essential here for making the dark shades, as it's a black made from mixing a magenta and a green pigment together, so it's got a little spice in it. While it's dark, it still has vibrancy, which is exactly what you need to glaze. Before I glaze, I oil in, which I do by spreading a thin layer of oil onto my dried painting. Later I buff it in with a shop towel, and then she's gleaming like a glazed donut. Starting with the background, I'm taking the color that I mixed and adding quite a bit of medium to it, and then spreading it across my painting. The medium I'm using is 1 part Gamsol to 1 part Galkid Light to 1 part safflower oil. Soft brushes are perfect for this, and I really only have 2. I just keep cleaning them in between layers. And since I'm creating gradients, sometimes having a bit of the previous color on my brush helps soften the transition between colors. While I'm painting the background, I'm thinking about how I want the edge of the canvas and the space around the figure to be darker, with brightness peeking through in the middle. This is my favorite part. I feel like everything is becoming a shiny gemstone. Here, I'm even glazing with some white that I mixed into a lighter portion of the background. Even this will be more vibrant than the layer under it. And here's how it looks with the background glazed in. It's even more obvious how light the figure is painted now. Since I barely used any dark tones in the figure, I'll be able to add the shadows in with more finesse. For the figure, I'm actually using a lot of the same colors in the darks that were in the background. For the highlights, I'll mix up the brightest mass tone to glaze with, which I do by adding just enough white to the color that it's lighter, but still very vibrant. This is a different value for each color. For example, the most vibrant version of yellow is a lot lighter in value than the most vibrant version of purple. When I'm glazing, I like to start with a lighter colored wash across the whole area I'm painting into, and then I'll start to define and deepen the shadows. And if I need to, I can wipe away some of the lights. Painting eyes is really subtle work. I want them to be high contrast, but still not too dark. Placing a darker color on the outer and the inner side of the eyelash really adds to this illusion of depth. You'll see that I'm making the hair a lot darker. I think I really overshot the lightness in the hair in my underpainting, but that's okay. It's always better to be too light than too dark when I'm going to be glazing. Getting into his hand holding the hammer and the light coming from Vulcan's forge. A lot of this color isn't just pink, but it's a good amount of quinacridone red to really deepen that heat. Here's the end result of the glazing. I'm really so happy with this, and I can't wait to varnish it. Varnishing paintings, especially dark ones, really brings out all the saturation of the colors. I waited about 3 weeks for this painting to dry completely, And I'm using a retouch varnish, Gamblin's Gamvar. So even if the paint is just touch dry and there might be a slightly wet layer under it, it won't have any issues drying fully. I'm using a different technique to varnish this time, applying a very small amount with a small soft brush. I found this way to be much better than a large stiff brush. You really don't need a lot of varnish, and sometimes it'll stay sticky for far too long. Varnishing paintings, especially dark ones, really brings out the saturation of all the colors. Now that it's varnished, you can see all the bright colors. It's mesmerizing to look at. And I love how reflective it is in direct sunlight. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped you learn a thing or two about oil painting and glazing. If you'd like to support me, my shop is linked below, where you can get a print or a sticker of this painting. And please, 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 won't you please give me a like and subscribe? Okay, see you, love you, bye.